Hi everybody. Sorry it's been so long since our last update. It's Valentine's Day weekend, the point where I'm recording this now, and I would like to dedicate this song to my best friend in the whole world, who I love very much, Nene Gold, and her grandfather. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, they're only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it, but I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? And someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Are these the sweet sounds that called the young sailors? I think they're one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. There's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Happy Valentine's Day! Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Considering our intro song, we thought it would be appropriate to use our sock puppets,
Dusty
and Krusty, for this segment. We're gathered here in our new studio on the evening of Joe Biden's inauguration with local activist Becca Myers to talk about the recent insurrection at the Capitol. Afterwards, we will share with you a very special segment to us. It contains unreleased footage of Brittany Gold and her grandfather, the late and great Ernie Gatsky's conversation together, previously featured on the show. We hope you enjoy and learn from this inside look at just how hard it was for little girls to simply play baseball, only a handful of decades ago, while we look back on and honor his life. So, Becca, or you want me to call you, or shall I call you Krusty? Or Dusty? I'm Krusty.
Dusty's fine.
Okay, so, Dusty, what's your opinion in general on what happened at the Capitol this month?
It kind of felt surreal. You know, and like, I was a part of a march in Waterbury over the summer, and looking at Black Lives Matter's protests. It was just, I don't understand, like, how people can compare, you know, the insurrection with the protests.
Well, that was going to be my very next question to you.
Ah, fuck.
According to Snopes, there is a growing narrative among conservatives that equates the deadly siege on the U.S. Capitol with Black Lives Matter protests of racial injustice. How do you feel about this comparison?
So, the comparison that I've seen from others, like, from other friends that I know, is sort of a slap in the face, and comparing people protesting systematic racism against police brutality and comparing that with
What?
With sieging the Capitol, you know, like I don't see any Black Lives Matter protests, you know, get to that point of like undertaking a government, you know, and like this insurrection was because of the president, and comparing those two is just, it blows my mind how people can relate them.
How do you feel about the fact that Zach Deputy posted a selfie with him and his brother toting MAGA hats at the Capitol?
I was in denial at first about it and like trying to double check my sources, but he had released a bunch of other videos with him talking more about it, and for him to be so hypocritical saying that both are bad, but you see him at one rally in particular was just crazy.
It's almost like he's guilty of making that comparison himself in the way he tried to apologize.
Exactly. That's just, I don't think I will ever enjoy his music, like, ever much the same again.
Do you think that he should possibly be canceled?
It's hard because I've known him and his music for so long, but with what has happened, I believe we should cancel him.
It's a hard subject and a hard call to make, but I feel like there's a moral reality at hand that as hippies who started their whole entire scene on the subculture and civil rights movement, we'd be kind of fucked up to not.
I agree.
Well, it was great talking with you about this, Dusty.
Thanks, Krusty.
Enjoy our next segment, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Listen to this story first, okay? Your mother wanted to play softball, and I used to play with her all the time, and I taught her how to bat, and I taught her how to throw, and blah 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 blah. But then I tried to discourage it because I said, "No, there ain't no league for girls or nothing." And she told me about the Lassie League, which was an Oxford organization. Oxford belonged to the National Lassie League. So I went and talked to a man named Bob Waterhouse, who was the commissioner. And he explained it all to me. And I put an ad in the paper and to satisfy your mother, and I ended up with 60 little girls. So we broke them into teams, and we played the first year kind of ragtag. I umpired every game.
That's awesome.
And the following year, there were some bitter disputes about, basically, from the Polish Women's Club of all things. There was a plot to try to stop the Lassie League. Now, what the hell was bothering them? I don't know, but there was a selectmen's meeting. And I went to the meeting, and they went through all the paraphernalia, and they said, well, apparently this isn't, a good thing, and they were, getting ready to vote and just get it off the table, And I said, just a minute. They said, is there anyone that has anything to say? And I said, yes, I do. And I stood up and I said that I was the umpire of the league for the entire year, and I never looked at myself as a founder, but I said said I was the umpire of the league in the entire year, and they were asking questions. You know, they were the questions they were asking was from the Lassie League book. They had a book. They had a original Lassie League book, and you would do things this way, no. You do things that way, no. Well, I told them, I says, close the book. What? I said, close the book. And a man named Paul Perkins, who was the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, said, and why should we do that? And I says, because as it is right now, we don't belong to that organization, therefore we didn't have to follow any of its rules. I'm talking about the first year. I said we played off the cuff. Remember?
Yep.
I said we don't have to follow its rules. And then I started in that in this town, you have a pony league, you've got a little league, you've got a junior league, you've got all kind of leagues for boys. What have you got against the girls in this town? Girls are 50% of the population. What have you got against the girls in this town? And as far as when I said close the book, the town head selectman looked at the town attorney, and the town attorney just nodded his head, yes, to close it. In other words, when I said we didn't belong to that organization, that we don't have to follow its rules, that was a vital point.
Right.
And so then I started in about boys versus girls, and what Webster does for the boys and what Webster does for the girls. Now, Willie Markevich, who lived across the street from me, was one of the selectmen. He had two daughters and a Russian wife named Olga.
Okay.
That he was afraid of. So I told him, I said, Willie, I said, do I have to go home and tell Olga what you're trying to do over here, that you're trying to shut down the Lassie League? No, Ernie, I wouldn't do that. No, Olga, no, you don't have to do that. Now, Ernie, you don't have to. Now, he was tongue-tied. And, I said to him, I said, Willie, I says, you have two daughters. I said, this league is for girls. I said, do I have to tell Olga that what you're going to do against your own daughters? No, I didn't say no. Of course I threw a little bit extra in there, spiced it up. But that's how you win.
Right.
That winter, I got together with one of the park commissioners, and we formulated a plan that the Lassie League was going to be given Slater Field, because down on where where the Little League plays now.
Yep.
In Webster, there were 3 fields down there that they had built, and they were doing nothing. That was a drinking organization down there. The clubhouse they'd all gathered to drink. I got together with one of the park commissioners, and he spoke to the others, and I got the permit for Slater Field. 2 years later, the Burn the Bra movement appeared.
Yeah.
And then a women's movement appeared, and all of a sudden the Lassie League became like fit in now.
I know, it's
they
awesome.
They weren't going to go against the women's movement.
Well, I'm gonna start the intro, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. So, we're recording in 3, 2, 1. The fight for women's rights directly affects around half of the population and is now becoming a mainstream topic of discussion again with the recent confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Tonight, I'm sitting down for a conversation with women's rights activists and a founder of the Webster Lassie League, my grandfather, Ernie Gatsky. In 1970, he helped to found the Webster Lassie League, a softball league for young women, after my mother expressed an interest in baseball and was denied entry by the Little League. The Webster Lassie League continues to be an active organization to this day, and my grandfather Ernie even received a mention during the induction speech of a successful Lassie Leaguer turned coach to the Softball Hall of Fame. So, I just want to say thank you, Grandpa, for everything you've done, and thank you for joining me tonight. How are you doing?
Oh, fine. How are you, Britt?
I'm doing great. I'm just happy I get to talk to you about this finally and get a recording of it, honestly. So can you tell me why it was so difficult for my mom to play baseball before you formed the Lassie League?
She was a natural. I was a baseball player, Brittany. And I used to play like factory baseball. The factories got together on Sunday afternoons, and she used to follow me to the field. And she had expressed an interest in it, and so I started teaching her. I bought her a glove, and I started teaching her how to catch, and I started on a bat, and I started, which she still has, and I started teaching her how to hit. And she was almost like a natural. She could hit, she could bat, she could throw. The only thing she couldn't do was run.
I'm the same way.
Well, she was born with a foot that's partially twisted inward.
That's fair. So she said she wanted to play, but she wasn't able to play in the local leagues?
No, she wasn't. She finally got to play just the year before, in 1969, because she used to be at the field with me all the time. I took her over where the park kids used to gather, and the girls they were playing softball there, and they tried her out, and they were thrilled with her. So she got to play there, but she never got to play with the, she always wanted to play baseball with the boys, and no. And I told her, I says, oh, don't feel bad, they're going to come around you someday.
Well, what obstacles did you face between your decision to create the league and actually establishing it?
Excuse me?
What obstacles did you face between your decision to create the league and actually establishing it?
Robin, I'm sorry, I really don't understand your question.
Nope, I got you. What obstacles did you face between your decision to create the league and actually establishing it? So what obstacles did you endure?
The obstacles that I faced were that the town tried to shut it down after its first year, except that I appeared at a selectmen's meeting, and I convinced the Board of Selectmen that the Lassie League go on, and that town of Webster should do something for girls because they didn't do anything. And from that point on, I got together with a park commissioner, and we ended up taking the field away from the Little League, which they already had 3 other fields that were already good to go.
Can you tell me about the time you were practicing on the field and people came up in their cars and told you that they weren't allowed on it?
Oh, yes. That was the thing that you convinced me to do what your mother wanted me to do. I used to go to the field with your mother, and I'd throw balls, and she'd hit them, and well, we were on Slater Field one day, and that was the home of the Little League at the time. But we were there, and me and your mother, and one of the coaches came along with a convertible full of kids hanging out all over. It looked like something out of the Bad News Bears. And so your mother and I picked up our stuff, and we started to walk out the first base gate. And the man who was the coach said, "Hey, Ernie." And I turned around, I went back, and he said to me, he said, "You know, girls don't belong on this grass." And that made me very upset, and that's when I decided to fight for girls.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like super messed up that you had to go through that. Well, going to present times, are you disappointed that the topic of women's rights was absent from the most recent presidential debate in light of the recent Supreme Court upset?
Yes, I am. Because the topic of women's rights is something that's starting to fall behind in this country at this time under this president. It's not like what they had many gains. And as it is right now, women have the right to abortion. They have all kind of rights, but under this judge, it remains to be seen. But I believe she's going to attack some of the fundamental rights that women fought for many years.
And she's filling the seat of RBG.
Yes, that's another thing. She's filling a seat of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who expressed as a dying wish that her seat not be filled until after the election.
Right.
That was her dying wish.
Yeah.
And these people just didn't care.
Yeah, it's awful. Well, do you think that voting Donald Trump out of office will be essential to the fight for women's rights?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it'll be essential to the fight for women's rights, because if Donald Trump is voted out of office, women will start to regain the power that they lost. Don't forget, you're going to have your first black female vice president.
Yeah.
Whether she's black or white doesn't matter. But she's the vice president. Now that cracks the glass ceiling even more than Hillary Clinton shattered it.
Right.
Hillary Clinton shattered it.
Yeah.
But she just put it with getting the first female vice president will crack the ceiling.
I agree. I totally agree. So that's a very exciting prospect. Well, thank you. I love you so much. Thank you for sitting down and talking with me today.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. We recorded.